Morning all, and today, July 9th, and we motor on towards next season. And this is the start of the real offseason getting in gear. Yesterday, Travis Dermott signs an extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs 2 years at $3 million, so it's $1.5 million a year. It's interesting because if you look at the reaction, there are plenty of people going, well, he could get taken by Seattle, and others saying, nope, you protect him in the expansion draft and risk losing one of your forwards because you protect four defensemen. I really think the plan all year has been Dermott probably goes to Seattle. I really think that Dermott is a replaceable player on the blue line, but we'll see what Toronto does. We'll see those lists in 8 days. We'll see the list, the unprotected and protected lists. So that'll be interesting. And of course, Elliot Friedman said that he believes the Leafs have some level of interest in Tyler Bertuzzi. So Leaf fans everywhere are speculating on what Tyler Bertuzzi would cost. All I kept thinking was Detroit would like to keep Tyler Bertuzzi, just like to see him healthy. Bertuzzi's an excellent forward who is underrated because he's part of the Detroit Red Wings, and he does a little bit of everything. He can score, he's physical, he can fight, and he's kind of fun to watch. So I don't think Detroit's going to be looking to move a young player who can do all of that at this time. But all the crazy trade speculation is going to pick up, the same as with Nate Schmidt out of Vancouver, even though I haven't seen anything to tell me Schmidt necessarily is on his way out of town. And then when I saw Schmidt for OEL, I went, yeah, no. The Canucks already have cap problems. That's just not going to work. We haven't even heard yet that OEL's been asked to waive or that he's said anything. But again, because last summer it was Vancouver and Boston were the only places he'd go. Now the speculation is going to surround Vancouver. Even though what's actually supposed to be happening in Arizona is that they would go out, see what interest there is in OEL, and then bring the offers to him and say, here's an offer we got from the Islanders, from the Rangers, from Ottawa, from wherever, and then it's up to OEL as to whether or not he would accept it. But since there's rumors he's on the block, immediately becomes, well, he's going to end up in Vancouver. Oh, okay, sure, fine. Corey Perry is winning people over yet again. Impassioned in his desire to both play next season and he wants to stay in Montreal. He doesn't want to go anywhere else, which I don't remember him saying about Dallas. And again, there's going to be more scrutiny over the interviews at the end of the season in Montreal than you're going to get in Dallas. But the divorce between Dallas and Perry seemed to be kind of obvious, and the one in Montreal I don't think is, and I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal brings him back next season. He's proven he it's not about money for him at this point. It's about an opportunity, and I don't see any reason not to bring him back. But if Montreal wants a chance to have that success again and get into the postseason, they're going to have that secondary scoring be Corey Perry. Corey Perry shouldn't be one of the prime guys you're turning to at this point in his career, and it felt like as the playoffs went along that was happening a lot. He should be your secondary guy, and I think that'll make him more dangerous to get more goals out of him, and you'll have more success as Montreal. So whether that's players from within moving up or whether it's moves being made in the offseason by Bergevin, that's something that I think Montreal needs to work on. Brett Howden has signed a one-year extension. Molly Walker reporting out that she believes it's worth $885,000. And again, Howden being signed means that that's another contract Seattle could look at and go, well, he signed for next year, right? So again, a lot of these contracts that are being signed, don't be entirely surprised if that is a sign that they're getting exposed and that they could end up being the player taken by Seattle in less than 2 weeks. Now, we're also expecting the buyout for Tony DeAngelo soon here, because the buyout window has opened in the National Hockey League. Let buyout season begin, and it runs until July 27th. This is the first buyout window, and so let the speculation begin. Who's getting bought out? Who isn't getting bought out? What might you get for a player rather than buy him out? And I don't think there's any rush to necessarily buy players out. Here's why. So if you buy a guy out, you've got a penalty, right? You got to have that extra money on your cap, but if you talk Seattle into taking the player that you're thinking about buying out, then you don't have to worry about the buyout. You don't have to worry about the penalty, and then it's Seattle's issue. So we'll see if that happens with any of the guys who might get bought out. We'll see how many instances there are of Seattle maybe picking a guy up, and then a buyout happening at some point. But yeah, free agency's on July 28th, so we won't have much time between the buyout window closing and the opening of free agency. But for teams, you've got, let's see, 9th, 28th, so you have 19 days to sit down and figure all this out. It's less than 3 weeks. There's going to be some serious movement. And again, remember, a lot of this is being held up right now because of Seattle. So when Seattle makes their picks on the 21st, and a week later you have free agency, that means there's a week of probably what should be the craziest trade period we've ever seen in the National Hockey League. Potentially ever. Because I still think there are deals that have been building and percolating since the last trade deadline in February of 2020, the last normal trade deadline we saw, right? Also, lots of teams are reportedly interested in Taylor Hall at this stage, and of course, again, all rumors will go back to Toronto. Every time it's going to be, but will Toronto pick up said player? I love this time of year. It's always the speculation of, but what is Toronto's interest? It's an annual right that goes back. I remember going back to the Lindros time. I remember when Gretzky was a player in the NHL. The speculation, does Gretzky want to play for the Leafs? So this is that whole rite of passage thing. And yeah, Taylor Hall, this is where we start to find out how much he meant. I don't necessarily want to make the most money. I'd like to win, and I'd like to stay in Boston because I have a good chance to win. When you start hearing all these rumors, and of course teams aren't making offers. So when you start hearing, oh, Taylor Hall's working on a deal with Buffalo, he's working on goes back to Buffalo. But if you hear he's working on a deal with, that's where you can just cut that conversation off, because teams are not allowed to do that. Unless they make a trade with Boston for negotiating rights to Taylor Hall, they're not allowed to make those overtures. And yet we still hear those rumors, right? Like, oh, Ottawa's really in on it. And I use Ottawa as an example because we know Ottawa is not going to be a big player in free agency this year. At least I can't see it. They have a pretty good program going on. They may pick up some secondary pieces, but I don't think they'll be a big player. And the way that Dadonov, Matt Murray didn't necessarily turn out, it may sour them on the idea of trying to, boost their team with the UFA pickups and maybe look to the trade route instead. There's also speculation, a lot of teams maybe inquiring about Drieger and his status in Florida and whether or not they'd trade him. And for Florida, here's the thing. So you've got Drieger, right? And you don't want to lose him for nothing. But if you trade him before the expansion draft, then you're going to lose somebody else. If you don't trade him, that's probably who you're going to lose to Seattle. So maybe you're better off just losing him to Seattle, and then that's one less thing you have to worry about is expansion, right? So we'll see whether or not that actually comes down and what happens. But yeah, going to be a lot of discussions about Seattle over the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, after that, we'll be talking about the roster and who they got and who they don't, and what they can fix and what they won't. And then free agency, if they make a big free agency signing, it's going to get crazy. All right, so there you go. A little bit of news of the day to start off your Friday. Another beautiful day here. It's supposed to be relatively warm. And yeah, so I'll be here to report on things as they happen, as always. Let me know your thoughts, though, in the comment section below regarding any of these news of the day articles. And hey, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Channel's pretty close to 202,000 subscribers, so that's great. And I think we're almost done with the whole Tampa Bay thing. We're not done with it. We're not done with it. Oh, all right. Well, okay. So more reporting on that there will be. But thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.